Now, as we go through the astral nature, everything, like I say, is reversed. And this creates a big problem for us because it's reversed and most of the humanity are on this. It's one of the reasons the prophet Isaiah said, behold, people take darkness for light and light for darkness. They take good for evil and evil for good. And there's none that seeth to do good, and there's none that doeth good. So Isaiah saw this thousands of years ago, that everything is reversed for the majority of people. And to begin with, spiritual contact is reversed to a great degree. And in the astral nature, when a person is polarized, there are many of the impressions he gets will actually be wrong. And some of the impressions he gets will be right enough. The thing is that many of the impressions will have enough truth in them to convince a guy he's on the right path. But oftentimes, he will get many impressions that are just reversed. Now, when you look in a mirror and you see your image, even though it's reversed, it's close enough to being you, you'll look at it and you won't say, that's not me, it's the reverse me. You don't think that when you look in the mirror. And when the person in the astral nature gets astral impressions in reverse, it's close enough to reality that he doesn't usually question it. It seems really real. Just like the reverse you in the mirror seems really real and seems the way you really are. Matter of fact, that's about the only you that you see is in the mirror. You don't see how you really are. You only see the reverse you. And so you identify more with the reverse you than you do the real you. If we were to look in the mirror all of a sudden and see the unreversed us, we'd look at it and say, I don't look like my regular self today. It seems kind of strange. So this is a problem with the astral nature. The third is the mind. And the fourth, for want of a better word, we'll just call it spirit. Now the spirit communicates with the mind. The mind reflects through the astral. And as it reflects through the astral, if a person is polarized there, he will not be 100% accurate because it will be so reversed. But the mind is capable of reflecting the spirit. But if this mind is cut off from the spirit, which Spock has somewhat cut off from the spirit in Star Trek because he's not really intuitive. He gets an intuitive flash, got an intuitive flash from the spirit, somebody like Spock. Do you think he would trust it?
Mm-hmm.
Why not? No, it's not logical. It's not logical, so we're not going to do it. So, if the mind is cut off from the spirit, then the ancient statement is what, Xavier? What does the mind do to the real?
Mind is a slayer of the real.
Mind is a slayer of the real. It's a very ancient esoteric statement.
Mind is what?
The mind is a slayer of the real. See? What do you suppose that means? How can the mind slay the real?
That's easy. Ignore.
Xavier?
The mind is logical, so it has its own rules and way to evaluate reality that are based on matter and material laws.
Mm-hmm.
And it will follow some kind of logic. There are an infinity of logic in mathematics, but each mind will have only one logic it will usually follow, and that logic will only meet it will only observe a few elements of a problem, because we don't have all the elements when we are from the mind or from the personality. We just have a few perceptions, and if we use some set of logical rules to deduce some conclusions out of only a few elements, we will necessarily get a conclusion that will in fact only show what basis we took for our reasoning. It looks like we deduce something great and we'll understood reality better, but in fact, if you analyze it from more afar, you can see that you only produced what you put in the beginning into the box, what were the bases, what you take for reality, and in fact, you only, it's like a program that you're going to run, and you won't win much out of it. So
Okay, well, you said the thing I'm really looking for is what you put in the box to begin with. You said, so in other words, the mind has what we call foundation beliefs. Okay.
Postulates.
Well, let's take, for example, if you're going to drive your car to the store, or let's say that you're just going to drive your car down the freeway for 1 mile, you think you could set your steering wheel so precise that you could just let go and it would drive a straight line a mile down the road?
You must live in Texas.
The mind.
Right, you can't do that. You go just a few feet and you have to correct it. You have to correct the steering wheel on a real regular basis. You cannot start with a powerful and accurate enough foundation direction so that you can travel 1 mile down the road, let alone 100 miles, let alone driving to McCall around the windy roads here, with an accurate start. You cannot start accurate enough to get really anywhere. And this is what the person centered on the mind thinks. He thinks his foundation beliefs are so accurate that he can get from here to here with no correction. Now, that's impossible. So the guy centered in the mind thinks his foundation beliefs are so inspired by God or somebody, or himself, or wherever he gets his highest source of learning from. He thinks it's so accurate that he can drive from here to here in a straight line. But what happens is he starts driving and it goes like this, and he gets way over here. And pretty soon, the truth is here, and he's way over here. But he's been logical. He's followed his foundation beliefs, and his foundation beliefs took him down here, and then up here, and then down here, and now he's way over here. And he thinks this is the logical place to be because I started here and I followed logic all the way down here. And so you present him this is the real, and you tell him about this real now, and he says, no. The real is here. Listen, I started out here. Man was born in sin. And because man is born in sin, he's becoming more and more sinful. And so now we need to repent like crazy. Okay? And you need to repent. You need to come and blah, 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 blah. So he started out with a foundation belief that is wrong. And he's following it with a logical sequence, very logical, right? And gets way down here. My brother-in-law, now passed on, was a nuclear physicist. Very intelligent. But whenever I argued theology with him, I mean, he would bring in the devil made me do it here and there and that type of thing. And we would get in some really weird territory following a very logical sequence, starting with his foundation beliefs about the devil and everything like this, that leads him into areas that are, you wonder, man, this guy is just so intelligent. I mean, he's just got nuclear physics down really great, understands Einstein and everything. Yeah. When you talk about certain doctrines or philosophies, he winds up way over here. So the point is, you cannot steer a car, you cannot create a car that is so accurate in steering that you do not have to steer it with your intelligence. It has to be steered with new, fresh intelligence on a regular basis, or we're going to miss the truth every single time. The mind will slay the real, because the foundation belief is always inaccurate. Our foundation beliefs right now are inaccurate. It's just that they're more accurate than they were last year, hopefully. But we still, all of us, still have certain things in our foundation beliefs that we're not prepared to change. I guess everybody here has. And unless we're prepared to change them with intelligence coming to us through spirit and through soul contact to correct us, we're going to arrive at the wrong source. Now, take my brother-in-law who's a nuclear physicist. Say we're talking about Einstein now instead of like theology. Maybe we're talking about speed of light or something like that. Well, in this, he's pretty good. So he starts with good foundation belief, and he's willing to follow the latest textbooks and latest discoveries. So maybe we're able to arrive here on this subject, because he's allowing for correction because he doesn't have to get permission from his living prophet to get here, or to change his mind on that. He has to, when we talk about theology, he has to get permission from his religious authorities to change his mind. So he can't change his mind on that. But on maybe something on regular physics, he's open to the latest discoveries on that. And so maybe we can arrive at a point of truth. Some point of truth. But the point is that all of us have certain things that are wrong about in our foundation beliefs. And we have to be open to correcting them on a regular basis. And some of them are, in any particular lifetime, it's not important for you to correct them all. It's important for you to correct certain ones. There will always be one or two major corrections each of us will have to undergo in any particular lifetime. And if you haven't made one within this lifetime yet, then you probably ought to do some introspection and find out why you haven't made one yet. And search out your foundation beliefs and examine them very carefully. So it's important that we remain flexible. And the only way to change our foundation beliefs is through inner contact with the Spirit. Now, a person in the astral nature, or even centered on the mind, can change his certain beliefs if some authority tells him it's all right to change them. Because most people are subject to some outside authority. If a person is a scientist, he will have certain circles that he trusts, and if they will tell him that something is different, that the age of the universe is extra billion years old, well, maybe he'll consider that. If Xavier tells him that, well, they'll say, you're not a scientist, I'm not going to believe you. So, if an authority tells them, then they will consider making changes. But we reach a point, the disciple reaches a point where he leaves behind outside authorities, and you have to go on the inside. And when you're on the inside, the person is torn between the astral and the spirit. We must be able to reach the spirit to get to the truth, so we will not be deceived. Because what happens is oftentimes one foundation belief that is wrong will be replaced by another one that is wrong. Okay. The guy has a foundation belief that man is born in sin, sinful from the time you're born. Okay, maybe that's replaced by babies are born perfect. And they don't need any guidance or anything as they're growing up because they're perfect, and we just need to let them alone and do whatever they want to do. Okay? So that's replacing one foundation belief that's wrong with another foundation belief that's wrong. And that happens quite regularly. On the other hand, it's better to replace one that's wrong with another one that's wrong than do nothing. Remember the parable about the 4 guys on the path in the book? The ones that were in the worst shape were which ones? The ones that just couldn't make a decision. The guy that made the wrong decision, what appeared to be wrong, and went to hell, he at least learned how to get out of hell, or how to change hell into heaven. So even though he picked an undesirable path, or what seemed undesirable, he still learned from it. So if one person replaces, like oftentimes a person will be a good born-again Christian and go kind of haywire and join some Jim Jones-like cult, and everybody will think, boy, this guy is really out of his mind. Actually, he's probably making some progress. Even though he's joined the cult, well, pretty soon he'll get burned in that cult too. And then what will he do next? He's got burned by religion, now he's got burned by this cult. They wanted him to drink this Kool-Aid and he refused, so he wants to go on, move on to something else. So maybe he becomes an atheist now. He doesn't believe in anything now. Well, this may actually be a step ahead for him to be an atheist, because now he has to rely totally on mind, leaves behind some of his foundation beliefs. But then as an atheist, the mind slays the will. The solutions to life still evades him. He follows his foundation beliefs. They'll take him down one wrong path. Pretty soon it reaches a dead end. Says, this can't be the answer. So he goes back to point zero, and he goes this way. Reaches another dead end. And says, this isn't the answer either. And he does this back and forth, until finally he becomes extremely frustrated and thinks, now, I've renounced God, I've gone on my mind, and time again, I'm just frustrated. There's got to be some answer better than what I've come up with on my mind. And then he opens himself up. And when he opens himself up, he begins to get communication. And then he begins to think, maybe there is something out there. God or higher self or something. Maybe there's something out there. And then he begins to move ahead again. So being an atheist, in many cases, is often a higher state of evolution than being in a staunch religion that teaches about God and everything. Okay, so the big question, in order to move ahead, we have to move out of the astral thinking, where everything is reversed. We have to move out of that reverse thinking so we can enter into the world of spirit. And only then can we know truth from fiction, truth from illusion.
JJ, I have a question for you, Ron.
Yeah.
How do you know that everything on the astral is reversed? I mean, why is that so?
When we talk to anyone that's based on the emotional, where their attention is based on the feeling nature,
Okay.
you can't use reason with them. They'll take any reasoning you give to them and totally reverse it.
Right, I understand that.
Okay? Plus all the teachers have taught it. I always say Veda teaches it. We're one of the authority here. And scriptures teach it. All the great teachers are.
So you're saying it's reversed from the logical side?
They reverse truth. Truth is reversed by the astral. The astral is like a mirror that reflects what is poured into it from the higher realms. And it takes these things and reverses them. But there's a purpose, divine purpose in reversing it. Can anyone guess what the purpose of the reversal is?
To make it more confusing?
It does that.
To be a vehicle.
It's an answer I bet nobody will get. What is the purpose? I mean, there's a purpose in everything, and there's a purpose for the reversal.
To make you want to move on?
You're getting a little closer.
Breaks your heart?
To be a vehicle.
It's the duality.
What do the Mormons say, Susan, the reason we come to this earth?
To prove ourselves,
And to gain,
Being a body.
to gain a body,
and to gain what?
exaltation.
And to gain what else?
Knowledge.
It's been a while.
I'll write it down.
Experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To gain experience.
So if I feel something is true, but that's a feeling I get, isn't that an astral then?
Think of all the things that people go into in the world of experience because they had a strong feeling about doing it. That they would have never done it if they would have had no strong feeling about it, but just thought about it.
Give me an
No.
example.
Like a fraud, huh?
Well, like you fall in love with somebody. This person is totally wrong for you. And if you go by your mind, you think, well, I've never married this person in a million years. But you go by your feeling, which reverses everything, and you think,
Okay, that's good. I got it.
great! I want this person. I want him right now.
I get it. Okay.
You've had that happen, okay. So the mind would look at the experience and say, I'm avoiding this experience like the plague. That's what the mind says. I don't want this experience. But the astral nature reverses everything and makes a completely undesirable experience look extremely desirable. Now, why do you suppose that's in the plan of God, that undesirable experience looks desirable and we were led into it. What do you suppose that is?
Maybe we learned something from it.
Exactly.
We have to think
Right.
about it.
If we were to be without our astral nature that reversed everything and makes the unattractive look attractive, we would never do anything. We would sit around and think, no, I don't want to do that. That would probably lose if I did that. Oh, I don't want to gamble on that. Yeah, well, I don't want to have kids. You know, kids just grow up and they just screw you over and make your life hell. I don't want to have any kids either. I mean, you wouldn't do anything. I mean, with your astral nature, reverses everything, makes it look really great to have kids, even though they're a lot of trouble once they get here, right? Makes it really desirable to marry this guy that just sits around, drinks beer, and watches TV all the time. You think, well, why did I marry him? No, well, your astral nature said he was the greatest guy on the earth. Okay, led you into an experience, and from that experience, you what? What did you get out of it?
Gain wisdom.
Well, you gained wisdom from it. You learned a lot from it.
Yeah, but you learn not to follow your astral nature.
How many here has been through a rough marriage? Okay. Zia, did you learn quite a bit from your bad marriage? Right. You probably learned more from that than you learned from this good marriage now, right? In some ways.
It's not as it seems.
We're just assuming here all marriages are good that's in this room right now.
That's true.
Okay.
Illusions.
Okay.
Now, Rick, you've been through a couple of turbulent relationships. Did you learn something from them?
Yeah.
Now, if you analyze that mentally, could see everything really clearly, would you ever gone into it?
No.
Why wouldn't it? Yeah, look how much you learned from it. I mean, you wouldn't be who you are now.
But all he's learning is not to follow those impressions. He's learning not to follow he's learning to not follow the astral, to think about it first instead. That's all he's learning. Couldn't you just tell me that?
That's the way it is later. But as you progress, here you begin your incarnations. We go through approximately 1,000 of them.
Okay.
And for about the first 700 at least, or so, or maybe even 777 is a magical number some mystics use.